And so I guess I'll start with that since obviously there's nobody here yet. So I start off with my pieces. This is the interior. It's bamboo fleece. I use either a glue stick or a fabric glue stick, and I just tack it down lightly to my already cut out interior pull, which is a laminated polyester fabric that's used for diaper sewing. And I just cut it a little bit bigger than the opening in the back, and then I just attach it. And for this one, I'm just going to zigzag it down. It's super simple. Also, if you have any requests, I will sew anything you want. We can throw this to the side for now, and we can sew something that you want to sew. I have a bunch of things already cut. I have a bunch of fabrics we can go through. But for now, I'm just going to be talking to myself and working on this. You could also pin this or clip it, but I found that it's just a lot easier to use washable glue. It goes quicker. I'll do a full-length tutorial for this later on, but I just wanted to have something going in case anybody wanted to stop by and get any help with their own projects, or they wanted to see how something specifically is going to be sewn. I can also do things besides sewing if you want to do any other sort of art. If you want to learn how to do Photoshop or Illustrator or actual, like media painting, some other sort of multimedia project, crafting, we can do cosplay. I've done a lot of costume design, wig design. I'm a pretty decent cook too, so let me know what you guys are interested in seeing. Or if, you just want to talk about some problems you're having with your own sewing, troubleshoot issues you're having with your own sewing machine, with your own projects that you're working on, I'm happy to help. I used to teach free sewing lessons in my own area before COVID, so now I do some FaceTime ones, but mostly I don't have those anymore. So I wanted to be able to reach more people from further away. And this way I figure you could be on the other side of the world, and if you have you want a private lesson, we can do a private stream, we can do a private lesson. No cost, totally free. I'm happy to help. Just let me know what you want to do. I'm going to leave this stream going for about 2 hours, just while I work. Anybody that wants to pop in during that time, we can change up what we're working on. We could do parts of projects to learn certain steps. We could just practice threading a serger. Anything you want to do. I suppose I should have had some music playing in the background or something. This is pretty boring with quiet. I didn't think about that. Next time I'll play some music. So again, I'm just gluing down the very edges. This is bamboo fleece, not heavy weight, but medium weight. I don't like the super heavyweight. It's a little harder to wash, takes longer to dry. Although I guess this might be considered heavyweight and just not super heavyweight. I'm not sure. But this is not the thickest. I have one that's thicker that I don't tend to use because it's just too slow to wash and dry. I haven't done cloth diaper sewing in quite a while because my kids are old now and most of my friends are done having babies. But I still can show everybody how to use my patterns. My patterns are online. Just look up Arfy diaper patterns. You'll be able to find them. They're all free downloads. And I'm always happy to answer questions. I don't always check the blog comments, but I try to occasionally, and sometimes my other followers will chime in with answers. But you can always get me here. Now that I've, come a decade behind and I'm finally doing YouTube. People have been asking me to do YouTube for a long time, and I just didn't want to. But now that I'm stuck at home and can't do in-person stuff, I guess this is really the only option. I'm just an old fuddy-duddy. I'll be doing this every Wednesday from about 2 to 4 p.m. I chose Wednesdays because my kids only have part days on Wednesdays and they finish school before lunch, so long before lunch. So I can do my chores around the house and shopping and whatnot, and then I can still have time for this. And every fourth Wednesday I'm at Children's until about 1, so this is still a good time for me. I'm on the West Coast in the USA, so it's Pacific time. So if you want to come back, if you see this after the fact, and you want to come and get some help, next Wednesday at 2 o'clock, I'll be right here. Or if you want to write me questions, I'm happy to set up a private stream. But this will be a time that you can reliably find me. I'm just going slow and steady. This is kind of something I used to do while I was watching TV or when my kids were really young, when I was nursing. I would either do something like this or I would knit. Pre-prep work is great when you can't sit at the sewing machine. I could sit on my bed. I could sit on a couch. Often I would bring my cutting mat up onto the bed and just work on surfaces doing prep work. Get this stretched out a little bit. Okay, let's see if that's even on the other side. We'll clean it up. YouTube is yelling at me that my video resolution is not that good, but that's because my camera is not that good, but I'm going to be getting a better camera soon, so don't worry about that for now. Okay, so I've got this all glued on. It's just washable glue. It'll come right off. But you're going to sew it in the meantime, so it doesn't matter. I think that's about right. So now you've got your full bottom panel. This is the inside of the cloth diaper. Then I've got the outside piece already pre-cut here. This was a pre-cut I got from Opulent Monsters when she moved. She used to live near here. She's a good friend of mine. And so I just used it to trace out the inner. Found a nice kind of complementary color. Gonna add some snaps and some Velcro, hook and loop, appliques, whatever you want to call it, to that. It's a Velcro cut, so. And then I've got just two inner soaker pieces to sew on after I've done this. And those will just get serged and then sewn down. And then I'm going to put a snap through one of them to add in a doubler. So these are the pieces that I've got prepared. Let's start sewing. I'm going to go to my zigzag stitch. And I'm going to go to a fairly wide, but not the absolute widest, but a fairly tight. So like 2.5 is my width. I took out my bulb on my sewing machine because it wasn't showing with all the bright light when I was sewing. So I'm just going to take this, probably start toward the back. Now, if you have anything you want me to sew, let me know. I'm just sewing this for now because there was nobody here. But now that I see there's somebody here, I'm happy to sew anything you would like. So since I'm doing a zigzag, I'm not using my walking foot. But if I was doing a straight stitch on the pull, I'd probably be using my walking foot. A walking foot looks like this. It attaches in there. It's great for using with stretchy fabrics or sticky fabrics. And since I'm working with both a stretchy and a sticky fabric, go very slow, especially since I'm not using the walking foot. I'm using 100% polyester thread. And I'm just using a universal needle for this part since I'm working with a combination of absorbent and moisture barrier fabrics. But if I was using just pull on pull, I would be using a ballpoint or a Microtex sharp needle. You could also make the inner cut a little wider and you could serge the back, but I just do a zigzag. It's the inside of a diaper. Nobody's going to see it. Who cares? Also, it's faster for me and easier for me to do it this way, and I use less fabric. My motto for sewing is, quickest, easiest, best. But you can always find what works best for you. Everybody's sewing style is different. Don't feel like you're limited to do exactly what a tutorial says if that's not what's easiest for you. Play around with your own machine, with your own materials. Find out what works best. Work with something not expensive initially, some upcycled fabrics. It's coming off the edge there. Let's fix that. There we go. I would definitely have to make a music playlist for next time. Have something playing in the background, be a little more entertaining than just my sewing machine humming. We could make Wednesdays a craft along if there's something that you want to work on and you want to do it together. Since we can't do things in person anymore on Wednesdays, have something that you set aside, maybe a Christmas present, maybe something for around the house. Give me your suggestions, and we can do craft along Wednesdays. Get some tea or some hot cocoa, sit down at the sewing machine together, get out our needlepoint or some knitting. I'm happy to do any of that stuff. I would love a friend to do it with. Okay, so there's our inner. That was so fast. Well, maybe it was slow. Not sure. It's easy though. So there. You can see what we've done so far. We've got our absorbent inner fabric. It's bamboo fleece attached to our pull. This is a one size cut. This is the Opulent Monsters Almo pattern. Opulent Monsters Magnum Opus. I had some cuts lying around, so I thought I'd use them up. This is what the inside looks like. Just zigzagged on. This is what the outside looks like. Nothing particularly fancy about it, just basic. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just serge a basic soaker to sew in there. Fits right in there, and then when it goes down to the one size settings, it can be folded. The first thing I'm going to do before I serge it is I'm going to get a snap so that I can do a snap-in doubler. We're going to get a female socket, cam snap size 20. I'm going to get my snap pliers and my awl. Set it down far enough that it's not going to get in the way of serging. This just shows how much pre-planning I do on things. None. And put it through. If you're using thin fabrics, you can trim the end a little bit with a nail clipper before you press it. But since this is bamboo fleece, it's thick enough to handle it by itself. And so there you've got a snap on it so that when you're all done, you can snap in an extra soaker or doubler. Now we're going to switch to my serger. Set this aside. My serger and my sewing machine are the same brand, and they use the same plug, so it makes it very easy for me to just switch back and forth in the same sitting spot. But sometimes I'll leave them both plugged in and have one over here to my right. But my computer's there today. I'm sorry I'm blocked a little bit, but oh well. Okay, so I've also got my bulb out of my serger, so it's not quite as easy to see as usual. General width, pretty basic. You could pre-pin or pre-clip your fabrics, but this is just bamboo fleece, and I'm not worried about it cutting a little bit. My knife is up, or my knife is, up, so that it will cut if it's excess. But you could also put your knife down for doing things like this. I think maybe I'll do that just to show you. So for my serger, there's this little ball right here. And that, if you take it and push in and then rotate down, it drops your knife. So if you're working with something that you don't want to cut, that's an easy way to work with it. I think I have a good enough needle on for this. We'll find out soon. This is definitely thicker than the last thing I was sewing on here, but I'm not going to bother changing the needles unless I have trouble. Okay, so set it up. And I'm just going to serge straight through. I'm not going to do any corners or anything, just sharp edges, because this is going to be sewed to another piece, so. And you could do this on a sewing machine with a zigzag stitch, or make it pretty and do some straight stitch quilting or something too. I also have a tutorial on my sewing blog for a turned and top stitched insert where you use thinner fabrics on the outside and then you don't have your inner absorbent fabrics all the way to the edge. That way it's not so bulky. If anybody has any questions or wants to have me sew something specific, I'm happy to. Just let me know. We can troubleshoot your projects. We can help you come up with new ideas. Okay. I'm going to do the sides first and then trim it up and then go across the middle. I think that's a good idea. Yeah. And again, this is an all-in-one from my old blog, my sewing blog, my cloth diaper sewing blog. It's got a pull outer and a bamboo fleece and pull inner. It's a very old pattern. I like some of the other ones better. This one's not as quick dry as some of them were, but you know, still good. And it's simple. It's really fast. It's an easy sew. I'm going to put my knife back up now because I'm going to do a little bit of cutting to even up these edges. Okay, so the way I deal with my serger tails, if you've watched any of my tutorials, is I use a yarn needle. And I take them and I weave them through the yarn needle. And then just feed it back through where you just serged. Go between the two layers or however many layers you're doing. And go back through a few inches. And then just pull it through. Do the other side. I learned this trick on Baby Center from Cloth Diaper Sewing Channel so many years ago. Probably about 12 years ago now, maybe? Something like that. Just feed it through. And now you've got your tails both through the middle. You can trim them down, and then if you pull them, they'll disappear right inside. No need to do any other finishing. Some people will sew up and down with a straight stitch too. If you look at professionally sewn clothes, they sometimes do that. I don't know if it's because they don't feed them through or if it's just an extra layer of caution, but I've never had a problem not doing that. So there, you've got your inner snake soaker sewn. Switch back to my sewing machine. And switch out to white thread or cream thread, one of those two. I usually sew with just white or just black, depending on like what my primary color is. But for something like this, where the soaker is inset from the actual diaper, I will switch if I'm using a dark colored pull. I have all my sewing stuff really easy to reach. Up on the wall next to my sewing station. So it's really easy to do. I've got a cream colored thread here. Let's see if I can even feed it without a light, since I had to take my light out for filming. See how good my eyes are. Pretty good. Okay. It is really strange the way that light gets picked up on camera. So now you've got your body piece that you did earlier, all sewn up. And you've got your snake soaker with the snap at the back side. This is the back of the diaper here, the butt of the baby. And this is the, inside back of the soaker. I tend to just lay it so that it's pretty much even on the inside. And then just do a basic straight stitch, fairly wide width. My phone keeps buzzing. Okay. And then we just take it. You can pin it if you're worried about things being precise. I probably should, honestly. I'm probably going to make a mistake. And then I'll be really silly since this is live. So take it down. Take your pin. There's no pull behind here, so it doesn't matter if you pin through it. When I'm working with just pull on pull or a pull outer, then I would definitely use clips and not pins. You don't want to puncture extra holes. It's already going to be bad enough. Which is why when I'm working with pull, I also use a Microtex sharp, very small gauge needle, or a ballpoint very small gauge needle. I like the Microtex sharps the best. But right now, I'm just doing the absorbent fabric, so it doesn't matter. You could zigzag across the top or straight stitch across the top. I tend to at least do one stitch straight, and then sometimes I'll do a zigzag on the edge so that it lays flat and doesn't rub. But for the initial sewing down, I'm going to use a straight stitch. I'm also going to start a little ways in. As I forget my plug. There we go. All the way over the edge. Then back a ways. Okay, so you could stop there. You don't need to do the edge flat. This really is fine. It's not too bad, but you could go and zigzag stitch to make it flatter. Let's do that just for the fun of it. Just because take more time, that's good. Oh, I lost a viewer. Sad. I'm so boring. Okay. And then you go back. Like I said, if there's something you want me to sew, I am happy to sew anything. Well, within reason. And that will take less than 2 hours. But we could always do part 1 one day and part 2 another week. That might be fun. Okay, that looks nice and flat. Which trick, Megan? Which trick? Sorry, I just looked up and saw comments. I'm clearly not paying enough attention. It's the hard thing about crafting while you're on camera. You can't pay attention to what people are writing. Okay. Now your soaker's also down. The next thing we're going to do is prep our top panel. This is going to be the outer part of the diaper. This was pre-cut from my friend, and it doesn't have any backing yet for the snaps. So I'm going to have to get a little bit of fleece, or if you have a Lova suede cloth, something non-absorbent. Let me see what I have around. Okay, I've got a little bit of fleece here, just so that it's a little thicker behind the snaps. You can use really any non-absorbent, fairly thick fabric. You could use like another layer of pull, but that's still going to be really stretchy. Something less stretchy, but still a little bit stretchy is the best thing to use. So you can use one big square, or you can do strips. I tend to just do strips. And it's just for snap backing, so it doesn't have to be pretty. Nobody will see it. And just wide enough that it's wider than the snap itself. Oh, that's good. So then you've got your little strip there. You can also do squares, but I found that they're more likely to pull through. So strips is really my preferred way to do it. If I'm doing a cover and I'm doing backing, I will do it as a big panel, like a big separate piece. Because then it's easily wipeable. You can go across the full width of it. If you look at my tutorials, you'll see those. And obviously this isn't pretty, but again, it's the inside. Nobody's going to see it. It's kind of my motto. It's like, as long as it's easy and nobody's going to see it, you can be as messy as you want to be. That probably explains the state of my room. I can find everything. It's good enough. I'm sure my mother didn't agree with that when I was growing up. Okay. So now you've got your backing strips. Throw that aside. And I've got my snaps over here. I guess I could do colors, couldn't I? I hadn't even thought about that. Let me glue these on so that I can play with colors. Again, this is just washable glue stick. You don't have to glue it on. You can just go and hold it on. But again, I'm being super lazy. Whatever works, right? The holes are already punched through the fabric since I got these as pre-cuts. So I don't need to worry about that. Let's find a nice matching color, huh? Lots of different colors of blue on this. Could do turquoise. That's nice. Or dark gray blue. It's not as nice. Bright blue. That might match the inner better, huh? That's probably the nicest one with the inner. Let's do the bright blue. I think I have enough of it. Oh, maybe not. I don't have the right stud color for that one. So I guess we have to do the turquoise. That's not quite right, actually. Gosh, this is what happens when you don't buy new snaps in a long time. We could do complementing, but not exactly the same snaps and studs. That might be an interesting idea. Yeah, let's do a mix and match. That'll be fun. Good way to use up things. Make it look intentional. Okay, so we're going to go through both layers that are already punched in with our awl. 1, 2, 3. There's the third. So I'm going to take a dark blue back cap for this one. And a turquoise stud. This is a 3x3 rise. You can do a 4x2 or 4x3, a 3x2 or a 3x3 when you're doing one size diapers. And what that means is the number of them that you have across versus the number down for the rise settings. So this one has 3 rise heights, but you can do up to 4 rise heights and still have it not be too bulky. A lot of people will do that. Different patterns have it set up differently, but the Almo is a 3x3, I believe. Okay, let's switch to a different background color for this middle one. I'll put when I edit this live feed, I'll put the URL of my diaper sewing blog for if you want to look at the photo tutorials for any of these, or if you want to download any different patterns to try. This pattern's not on there. This was a friend's pattern, but there's other one-size diapers, and this general tutorial is definitely on there. So even if the pattern's not, the tutorial is. This will work with any pattern. It's just it's just the way you sew it. You can take any diaper like pattern and use the shape of it if it fits your child the best, and then you can change the way that it's made. You can make anything into a fitted, anything into an all-in-one, anything into a pocket. That stuff's all totally customizable by you. What color should the next one be? Let's do a light colored cap and a dark colored socket. Make some nice contrast. And for the top one, let's do a turquoise cap and the light colored socket. If you notice, I'm pressing a couple times. My pliers are not super good. A lot of people have presses. I've never had a press, so I have to put a little more grip strength into it. Okay, so should I do them in the same order? All the middle rows be... Yeah, I think so. And then the top one. Yeah, that one's a little uneven. Hopefully it'll snap. Let's check. Yeah, it's fine. If it doesn't, you can go in with some nail clippers and just trim out the inside a little bit at the edge that overpresses. At least that's what I do. If it's really bad, some people will get a soldering iron and they'll just melt out the inside and then do it again. I've never bothered with that, but I know lots of people who do. I'm probably just going to finish the prep work for this today since I don't have any current active viewers. Well, one. If you have any suggestions of things to sew or anything that you would like to see, please let me know. If you have any projects that you want me to work on next week, I'll be here every Wednesday. If you have any troubleshooting that you need with your machine or any other craft you want to do besides sewing, let me know in the comments. I'm just sewing this because there was a request on my sewing blog about it, and I thought, well, I can get it over with now. But I'll be doing a real, like, you know, time-lapsed, maybe pre-prepped version of this in the future. I told my diaper sewing blog that I would start doing, you know, planned diaper sewing videos in January. So next month, we can expect a few diaper sewing videos. I'll probably do a couple pockets, a couple all-in-ones, fitted and cover. I'm not going to do every one because I think I have like more than 30 patterns on my blog, but I will do a few. I wish there was a way to figure out how to do like my sewing light bulb and I still have some light underneath here that doesn't wash everything out, but I tried like 3 different things and it didn't work, so I had to just take out the bulb. I guess I should go and look at other people's sewing videos and see what they do and how they manage with the bulb issue. They might just have brighter rooms in general, so the contrast isn't so much. So you're home now, Megan, I see. We can do needle pointing sometime, or we can make Christmas stockings. So many options. So if you're wondering, since I did the walk around kind of choppily around my room, this is my sewing room in the basement, but it's also our guest room. So that's why there's the bed in the middle. It's not my bed that's that messy, and obviously we are not having any guests anytime this year. So it is covered with all my projects and like matching fabrics that I've been trying to lay out. So I was doing infusion shirts to donate to Children's. I did a video on that. And so I was pairing up various prints and solids and stuff and zippers because I had these zippers from making sandwich bags and I figured it was a good way to use them up. So did you finish the stockings for both of your kids? Since you're working on your sister-in-laws? If any of you guys have friends who want to learn anything with sewing, and you guys don't want to teach them, I know you guys both sew, but if you have any friends who would like private lessons or something, we could do private streams. I learned how to do that. I was watching videos on how to stream on YouTube before doing this. And there are private streams where you can basically stream incognito and just give a direct URL. So like I could do that instead of FaceTiming or instead of Zoom. It's long, basically longer than the Zoom one because I'm limited to 30 minutes on Zoom. But for YouTube, you could just go on and on. I think up to 12 hours. So we could do private lessons if you know anybody who'd be interested. Anywhere in the world. Through the magic of Google. Okay. So now we've got our hook and loop sewn on. Not perfectly straight, but good enough. We've got I have mine going all the way to the edges. You don't have to have it go that far to the edge. Then we have our interior. So the next thing that we're going to do, and I'm sure most of my viewers know this, is we're going to put the faces together. And since I'm going to be working with pull, I'm going to clip and not pin. I got these clips from my friend Tracy. I used to just use alligator clips, but then she thought they looked silly, so she gave me these actual sewing clips. I feel so fancy. It's kind of like when Eliana got me the blind hem foot, and I never used it because I'm not that fancy. But for videos, I can totally use these, and I have more of these than I had of the alligator clips. I think I only had like 12 alligator clips, so this is way better. And then I just take them out as I go. And since I'm working with pull against pull, there's a couple things you can do. You can use a Teflon foot. You can use a walking foot and go very, very slow. You can put some tissue paper down. Some people do it that way. I've even seen people use a tiny strip of Alova or something just along the edge when they're sewing, since it shouldn't cause any wicking or absorbance, but it will make it so that it's not stretchy and not sticky. So I've seen a bunch of different solutions, and really just do what's best for you as long as it works. There are certain pulls that aren't as sticky too. The Babyville pulls are not very sticky. They don't cause a lot of problems, but this is the really old diaper sewing supplies pull, I think. I'm not sure who I got it from, but this one is a stickier, like actually a very sticky pull. So it's a little trickier. Yeah, Paige, I'm sure you have pretty awesome stuff. Your sewing room is probably as nice as mine. If not, honestly, if not more. You're probably more organized than I am. I just have things like crammed in cubies in the closet. And you roll your fabric. You don't put it on the comic boards, right? I know that Holly is who taught me to put it on the comic boards. Like every wall in here is covered in fabric. There's fabric against the window. There's fabric in IKEA cubes all over one of the walls. Fabric inside a closet. Fabric against the mirror. I might have a hoarding issue here. I'm not sure. My husband supports it though. He doesn't get mad about it, so it's fine. Yeah, I know. You know, I actually haven't had to rearrange in here in a long time. Like when we first moved into this house 10 years ago now, I like planned what I wanted to do. I didn't have as much stuff back then, and I didn't have as many sewing machines. That's more of what I've been hoarding. But I designed the IKEA cube thing on the wall because it's a basement, so there's that half wall height thing there. And then I did the closets right away because that was just a closet-made cube system that I already had at our rental. And then I just added the other few over the years, and Megan actually went with me to IKEA to get them. It's collecting now. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like I'm just collecting. I feel like I have the intention of using it. It's just I can't get through it fast enough. Like, if I could get through it faster, then it would be more excuse to get more. But Crystal keeps on giving me more. Like, every few years, she just brings me this huge bag of fabric. And I'm like, I don't need it. I only need this one print. And she'll be like, oh, no. Here, take these other 4. So I get a lot of, like, ends, like salvage ends. Salvage, whatever the word is. I get the ends that she can't sell. And I try not to take stuff that I won't use. Most of the stuff I have is stuff that I've at least used most of or some of for projects, and just it wasn't a big enough project to use everything that I was given. And then occasionally, very rarely, I'll actually buy my own fabric. Like if I need a complementing solid, or if Lizzie like really wants a specific print. And as I was saying earlier on in the video, this whole prep work part, you know, this is the stuff I used to do while I was nursing or watching TV or whatever. Like, it's stuff that you don't have to do in your sewing area. You can do all the prep one day and then do, you know, this, or all the prep on different days and then do the sewing here and there. If you're doing a bunch of the same type of thing, do all your prep together and then just do your sewing all together. And then you don't have to spend all this time that's really just idle time, just clipping things. And this is why I switched to the serge-only dresses, because they don't involve any prep work. Because diaper sewing involves so much clipping and cutting and like different layers of different fabrics. It's so much more work than garment sewing. Garment sewing is so easy. You literally just like cut pieces and then serge down the side. I did my dress sewing videos, and I mean, I fast forwarded through like the long serge seams and stuff, but really they always take me under an hour. Like those kinds of dresses, from cutting the fabric to finishing it takes under an hour, just because I do such minimal prep work for them. I don't do pinning. I don't do, you know, everything's just one type of fabric. It's so easy. Diapers, people love the diaper blog, but diapers take so much more time. I got really fast back when I did it all the time, but in general, like, a fitted diaper doesn't take that long, but when you're working with pull, that's why I like to do a lot of fitteds and just a couple covers, because even though I know how to work with pull well, it just takes a lot longer. You can't escape that. Well, here, I'll help you. It's easy. I'll help you with it then. You don't need to do it all. Okay, so I'm going to turn through the front. This over here is the front. All I'm going to do right now is going to take my sewing machine. I think I have a polyester thread in. Yep. And I also think I have a ballpoint needle in, or a Microtex needle in, so I think I'm set. I'm going to take it and I'm just going to sew, leaving a turning hole. I'm going to try to not mess up too badly. I'm going to go slow. Try to get a good view here. Fairly long straight stitch. I sew pretty close to the edge. I use the edge of my foot basically to keep an even distance. So if I'm wanting a wider distance, then I'll left justify my needle, and if I'm wanting it a smaller distance, I'll just leave it centered. And I just remove the pins as I go. I'm not using my walking foot because this is one of the slippery pulls. But I would use the walking foot if I was sewing on the other side. 100% would. And for those who don't know, this is a walking foot. I got this great set from Amazon. That was so cheap when I first got these machines, because it was the price of the whole set was the same as a walking foot, and I got it just for the extra walking foot because I already had one, but it was starting to get worn at that point. I've had the same machines for years, so for my general machines. It's an important thing to have if you're working with stretchy fabrics. I use it for jersey knits, I use it for pull. So this is a pre-cut Omo cut, as I was saying before, and so it has notches in it for where her elastics are going to go in, but I'm probably just going to ignore them because I don't do the turned type of elastic, I just do the feeding. It's not staying super straight, but it's pulling a little bit, but I'll just trim the edges. This one pulled a little bit. One more up. Perfect. Crystal's patterns have really narrow tabs for their Velcro. I don't do mine that way, but I'm using her cuts, so that's why it's like that. It'll be fine, though. It keeps it trimmer when it's closed. Mine have longer tabs and wider tabs. sure it's lined up. Okay. It's kind of a big turning hole, but oh well. So now you've got your basic body. You can trim it up a little bit so there's not as much to turn, so it's not as thick on the edges. I probably need sharper scissors down here. Actually, I think I do have sharper scissors down here. It's like it's my sewing room or something. Okay. Much nicer. And because of the pull won't run, you can trim it pretty close. Along the elastic, I tend to leave a little bit so that I can tell which way I'm feeding my elastic in, so that I can feed it over and leave it a little more protected. But the rest of it, you can trim it pretty close. There you go. And I like to round the corners a little bit on the inside so that it doesn't leave any bulk on the corners. Also, if things are puckery and not perfect, it doesn't really matter with diapers because the elastic and the top stitching will completely hide that. Anything that you're sewing that's going to have elastic through it and be stretchy doesn't have to look perfect before that because the elastic will gather it anyway. So you wouldn't even be able to tell. Lazy person's hint. And then around sharper corners, you want to make sure that you trim it a little bit in. But on straighter ones, it doesn't matter as much. There you go. Just turn it. This diaper, the way that it's sewn now, only has 3 layers of bamboo fleece, but I have the snap-in so that for like a newborn size, it would have the 3 layers, or for like the smallest size. And then you add in the snap-in when you get to the bigger rises, or heavier wetter for overnights. You could have 2 size snap-ins. You could have like a small snap-in to fit with the lowest rise, and then you could have a bigger snap-in to fit with the higher rise. But it's good as is for, you know, light use and for a newborn. Having a bulky diaper at all sizes just isn't worthwhile. I've done some where I had two of these, or like the way that Bum Genius does it, where they have like a doubler sewn in a few inches. It's still attached to the snake soaker, but it's like just the middle part doubled up more for the wet zone, and you could do that too. But I like doing the snap-in If you don't have snaps though and you want to do the whole thing like appliques, then it probably would be better to do like either a sewn in or just a lay-in. You can just put a lay-in behind this one. But if it's like a grandma diaper, you can even take this after you've finished it when your kid gets to the bigger size, and you can just after the fact sew in a wet sewn doubler. Just turn it like this and sew it to another piece. You can do it after the whole thing's made. It'll be easier actually even with the elastic in, so. So now you've got your turned base diaper shape with the front open. We're going to be doing elastic casings my way, which nobody seems to ever understand, and they ask so many questions on my blog about it. But I just sew the channels after I've turned it using my my foot as the guide to keep it even. I put it at the left justified length and to the edge, and that's exactly right for the 3/8 inch, almost elastic, the thicker kind, not the 1/4 inch. It always works. And then after I'm all done feeding my elastic through the casings, then I close up the turning hole. So it's pretty basic. Probably should switch back to my blue thread though, since this whole thing is blue. As you can see, I have a super basic machine. I got it like as a refurb 10 years ago, I think. So many years ago. Yeah, it was 10 years ago because I got it when we first bought this house. Because I used to have a brother that I hated. I hated the drop-in bobbins, and I liked Crystal's Kenmore with the upright bobbins. So I got this Genome as a refurb for really cheap. And it was so great. And I haven't even had to have it serviced. I should, but it's never had a problem. It's been such a workhorse. I use it for everything. And because it was so great, when I got my first serger, which was probably 8 years ago, I got a Genome as well. I got the most basic, non-computerized. I don't know if it's pronounced Genome or Genome or whatever, but it's awesome, whatever it is. I've never had an issue with it. I did have to clean out the tension knobs on the serger once, though. I was having issues and I couldn't figure out what it was, and then I figured out what it was because it was just the tension knobs were dirty. Feeding thread without a light. There we go. Okay. So I will do my top stitching after I feed my elastic, but for now we're just going to do the casings. I tend to do my casings just below this, so the bottom rise snap is the stud, and I tend to do mine about 2/3 between the stud and the first socket. So like right about here. It's very approximate though. I don't pay a lot of attention. They might not always be exactly the same. I'm not following any sort of a guide or anything, so. Left justified needle. Right over the edge. Make sure as you go that your edge is pulled out, especially around the curves. And then just go slow when you're making your casings so that they're fairly straight and you don't lose extra fabric. Especially with this all-in-one style because you've got that interior sewn in and you don't want to go over it. Got a little narrow there. And then for the back, I sew up to where it's kind of like a straight line to the back elastic, so right about here. You can make marks though. My patterns are marked, so if you're using one of my patterns, then you can make little, chalk markings to denote where those lines are, but I just do it kind of approximately when I'm sewing. So there you got your first casing. And now I just kind of line it up on the other side, and I start from the other side so that it's fairly even. That looks good right there. Make sure that it's all pulled to the edge. And if I was doing a pocket or a all-in-one that had the absorbent fabric all the way to the edge, I'd be more careful to have the outer piece of pull a little bit over the inner. But since this is pull on the inner and the outer, I'm keeping them even. And now we're getting to that point where the rise snaps are again. Now you've got your two side casings, and you can feed the sides in before you sew the back because it won't affect the back, but I just do all my casings at once. And then for my back elastic, I just go straight up from where my leg elastic is to start. There's static in here. It's sticking, my thread keeps attaching to me. Must be winter with the heat on and dry. There's the back. I leave the back a little looser than the sides when I'm feeding elastic, so it doesn't pull so tight. You can do more adjusting with the snaps and the Velcro, so you don't need to have the back be as hugging. Some people like to do a more ruffled edge at the back where they do top stitching at the top and then have the elastic inset from there. It can help with wicking when stopping with blowouts if your kid is prone to like leaking through the rear. It's just, a choice. You can use any pattern and do it both ways as long as you don't do too big of a seam there. You can modify your own pattern. And I don't do my top stitching until after I'm done, but people who do ruffled legs and ruffled backs, you can do your top stitching all the way around before you even add your elastic. I do have some ruffled patterns. Okay, so all your casings are done. Next, we get to play with bodkins. Everybody's favorite tool, a bodkin. You can use a safety pin if you don't have a bodkin, but if you don't have a bodkin, you should get a bodkin. I used safety pins for so long, just thinking, oh, I don't need a bodkin. But they're just so great. Like, you can't go wrong. You may as well get one. They're cheap. They're at like every craft store. I use stretch right, 3/8 inch, poly braided elastic. I got this so many years ago. It takes so long to use up. I do have 1/4 inch for newborn diapers, but for the one size diapers, I use the 3/8 inch. I don't pre-measure. I know everybody's always asking me how long my elastics are, and I have no idea. Crystals all came with pre-measured elastics, and I just put them in a bag and don't use them. I just put my elastic on my bodkin. You can do your leg elastics first and then your back elastic, or vice versa, but I find that it's easier to do the leg first. For the leg elastic, I feed toward the outside edge. So I push to the outside edge so that the seam allowance is underneath the elastic to give more like thickness underneath. It stops them from wearing out as much on the edge. It's really just a small thing. It shouldn't make a huge difference, but I just like doing it that way. So I feed them through. The bodkin with the metal does stick a little bit to the inside of the stickier pole. If you do looser casings, it's a little easier, but I just go slow. I also turn it upright a little bit while I'm going. It tends to push through a little better that way. And then I lay it flat after it's gotten past a certain point. Then you reach in with your hand. Yeah, Megan, you do. You need a bodkin. I got a 2-pack. It had 2 different kinds of bodkins in it. I should really try this other kind. It might fit better through this type of thing, but I always use the clip kind. It was just a Dritz one from the store, you know. I'm sure there's probably better ones, honestly. There's probably, like, if we look on Amazon, I bet there are, like, all sorts of modern, fancy bodkins. I bet the science of bodkins has been improved. Okay, when I get it mostly through, I pull out my bodkin. I make sure that it's about 1/4 to 1/2 inch above the end of my casing channel here. Leave a little bit out though, you don't want it to be all the way to the edge. And then I sew back and forth a few times. Slightly smaller stitch length than I was doing before, to hold it in place before I stretch it. It's really the only part I'm careful with, is making sure that that's the right length. Because you don't want your elastic snapping back. It's also the only place that I put on the fray stop. I probably wouldn't have to, but I just worry about like the tension that goes on the seams there. And I go back and forth a few times. So, because somewhere like that has a lot of tension all the time. My stuff is getting dried out. There we go. Wow, it's really clogged. Oh well. What good would a cast iron bodkin do, though? It would be really heavy, right? Probably more non-stick, maybe? I don't know. I guess you'd have to, like, tamper it. You'd think that, like, something like a what are they called? Teflon? A Teflon bodkin would work better for something like this. Okay, so for this, I stretch the first side first before I even feed the second side, and then I use the length of the first side to then measure against the second side. So I tend to stretch my legs about 3/4 and my back about 1/2. So you take your fully stretched out as far as it would go, and then you release it back to be like at the 3/4 point. So it's like here. And that's where then I would pinch it off, usually as a clip or a pin, but until it's 3/4 the full stretch. So for this, it would be about there. And see there, it's got plenty of extra, but it pulls in nice and tight as well. So then at that point, you can clip it further up, or you can just sew. I just hold it with my fingers and sew. If it was a fitted diaper, you could pin it, but I don't like to put extra pins, as I said in the pull. Though honestly, with a diaper like this that has pull on the interior, it probably wouldn't really matter. But it's kind of just a OCD thing. So now you've got your one side elastic done. This is how the inside looks. You've got plenty of extra space. But if you wanted to do a slightly wider elastic casing to make it easier to run your bodkin through, there's room to do that here. Now, when I do the other side, I cut off, leaving about 1/2 inch on the inside here. And then I take the other side, same as the other one, and I feed it through, and then when I get it all the way through, I'll measure it up against this side before I cut it so that they're the same length. I imagine pre-measuring would do a better job at that, but that's effort. I don't like effort. This blue pull is so sticky. I don't know if I've sewn with this one before. I'm glad that the pattern pull wasn't as sticky because I could sew on that side. If I was doing a flip cover with just this dark blue, it would be really hard. Okay, so now I've got it through, just like the other side. Release your bodkin. Pull it out. Make sure there's about a ½ inch of it left. And then sew it down. Sewing elastic is like sewing zippers. They take too long to be fun. Okay. So now, like I was showing you before, you take your run through elastic, you make sure it's nice and flat, you pull it stretched, but this time you're going to hold it up against your other side. I fold it in half here. And I hold the edge to the edge. And you make sure that where it ends, it's at the same length. So this one's a little longer. Let's straighten that out. So then I loosen this one just a little bit until it's at the same point. And now they line up. So they're the same amount of stretch. And then you just take it. And just back and forth at the edge there. Wish I had my light. I used to do box stitches with my fitteds. Like with the really squishy fitteds, I would do little pretty box stitches. And then I got too lazy. Okay. There we go. And now we do the same thing and feed through the back, but we don't pull it as tight at the back. Make sure your turning hole is big enough to put your hand through. I made mine really big, but that's an important thing. Make sure you can fit your hand through your turning hole. So especially if you're doing newborn size, if you're going to do them this way, then make sure you can put your hand through. Some people do it with the pre-sewn in elastic and then it doesn't matter, but I do it this way, so. Luckily I have very small hands. My dad was loaning me gloves recently and he was shocked at how small my hands were. So remember at the back, I don't like it to be stretched as much. So make sure that you've pulled extra slack through. Okay. There's my bodkin. Make sure it's released. You can just drop it right out. Whee. There it goes. Okay, let's sew the top. Pull a little tighter than that, I think. That's a good amount. Very nice. Okay, so now just reach in, cut off your excess elastic. That's all we have to do with the elastic. Trim off your thread tails. And the last thing you're going to do before you add the appliques tabs, if you're doing snaps, it would be the last sewing you would do, but with appliques, with the hook and loop, you have to still sew on the tabs. But the last thing you do for the, other than the closures, is top stitching, and when I top stitch is when I close my turning hole. So I close my turning hole with my top stitching. I don't do an extra seam. Some people do. It's all just one with me. Just one easy pass. Look at that pretty dye burr. So pretty. Get all my corners nice and square. You can go at this point and clip things to hold them square, because top stitching, a lot of people like making it really pretty or doing it really close to the edge. You could also use your bodkin or a screwdriver or a yarn needle and push out those corners to make them really nice and straight. If you want the really nice square corner. You could also intentionally leave them in and make it a more rounded corner. I'm going to do the square though. And once you top stitch, you can't change the shape. So anywhere that you might need to like clean up an edge, if your tabs are uneven, this would be the time to do it. If you care. Again, it's a diaper. You shouldn't care. But if you want to do it for selling, this would be where you'd want to check to make sure that your tabs line up. So the way that you would do that, mine probably don't, is take the edges here and hold them up against each other. That one actually does. Look at that. So nice using pre-cuts from Crystal, isn't it? But see, that's where you would do it. So if one was a little bigger than the other, then you could go at this point, turn it inside out, and clean it up to make them match. But don't have to. Very nice. Okay, so now we've got our front. We're going to do our turning here. So what I do is I just tuck in the edges. Try to make it a nice straight line. I usually, if I'm doing appliques, it's really easy. Just fold it along that to make it look straight. So even if it wasn't quite straight sewn, this is where you can fix that. This is where you can pretend like it was straight. You fold it in and just go very slowly and just clip it inward facing each other. Oh, it'll be selling soon enough, I'm sure. Should we send it to Paige? It is blue. It'd be a good boy diaper, although he wouldn't fit in this one for a while. I guess I'm going a little beyond 4 because I really want to finish this. I mean, I'm not going to do the appliques today, but I want to finish the top stitching. If I hadn't shown Paige all those fabrics, I might have actually finished in 2 hours. I'm going to blame you. No, it's fine. I don't even know if I'll keep this video up. I might like edit it down to just be like a really short segment of it without talking to you guys. I looked it up and you can like crop down off the edges, like length, so you can take like just a segment of the live and put it up just so it's something, or you can just not put it up at all. I suppose I should also start like a Facebook, related page or whatever. Do Facebook streams or have a Facebook page that leads to my YouTube streams. Gosh, who wants to be my multimedia manager? Somebody can tell me what I'm supposed to do. I don't know. Some people are grossed out by cloth diapers, Megan. Okay, so see, it's all pinched nice and even across the back. You can do it, or across the front, I mean. You can do it smaller, closer inset, but I want to make it easy to get to and not worry about it. So then I start at the edge of my elastic casing. My regular wide set, because it's just for top stitching. Straight stitch. probably do it about 1/8 of an inch in. You can do it a little less if you wanted to. I used to do it like a 1/16 when I was really practiced, but it's harder to get that close without messing up, so. You can also do it much more as well. For those not in the US, I'd say like 2 millimeters, probably. Maybe a little more, maybe 3, but somewhere around there. And then unclip as you go. Ah, put it in the wrong place. Okay. You can hug it closer when you get to the front part, but I'm not too worried about it. Make sure that the top and bottom layers are lining up really nice. It's a little hard at this point because you get to the hook and loop, the Velcro, and it can push. So you want to make sure that you're keeping it even. Especially since this is your turning hole and it's where you're closing it up. Rotate. Line it up again, round your curve here. So there you've got your front turned and top stitched. It's nice and flat. Instagram, huh? Gosh. Next you're going to tell me I need to go on Twitter. I'm way too old and fogey-ish for this stuff. Mark teases me about it because he's done that stuff forever. Okay, so how's that look? Is that pretty? Nice and flat? Now you do the same thing with your back wings. And then after that, all you do is hook on the appliques. I'm going to stop the video here because I have to go and start prepping dinner because my kids want sushi tonight and I have to make the rice. But it's really simple. You do the same thing that you just did at the front, just at the wings and square them off. And then you just sew on your hook and loop for your tabs. And Crystal actually has pre-cut tabs, so I'm just going to use those. I also like to add a laundry tab on the inside for folding in, but hers, I think, have one like built in right on the edge, so you just like fold it in and it folds in on itself. So you do both the hook and the loop at the edge, and then just the loop at the inside edge here, and then it just folds in so that when you're washing it, it doesn't stick to everything else. That's the biggest thing with the Velcro type stuff, is they will stick to everything in the wash. You can also do snap-on tabs, which I actually like doing a lot, where you have a tab that's completely separate from the body, and you just unsnap it at laundry day, and then, you know, take the tabs off, throw them in a pile somewhere, and that you don't have to worry about it at all. So maybe I'll do that, because I do like that, and that's really easy to just put a snap through the edges. Anyway, thank you. It was nice seeing you guys, and I don't know what I'm going to cut out of this. Probably just small bits, like in the middle somewhere. But we're going to try this again next Wednesday, and give me some ideas. You guys message me and tell me things that I should sew. I have some really basic things. I could just make like on paper towels, or I could do plushies, or I could serge up this dress for Clementine that I haven't serged yet, but I already have this dress sewing videos. So I don't know, give me some fun ideas. Maybe something cosplay. Let's do something fun. I'll see you guys next time.